How's everyone doing? Hey, Patrick. Hey, Christo. Wait for some more people to come in here. Thanks for joining. Let's just get started with some of the more minor stuff. Building permits coming out this morning. Stronger than expected. Core durable goods was a big beat. Good morning, options 22. Core and bounce from prior. This was a big on core durable goods and the headline durable goods orders. Headline durable goods month over month. Prior was 1.2. Forecast was to be a contraction 1%, actually coming in at 1.7. We just had Red Book come out a few minutes ago, still dropping significantly, which is not, I mean, it's a minor thing, but it's not a good sign. And house prices index just came out at 8 o'clock Central. Slightly better than expected on a month over month basis from April. What do we have coming out at 9 Central? We have consumer confidence. We have Richmond regional indexes of services and manufacturing, and we have the Dallas Fed services coming out at 9:30. So that's where we sit with that. Things are pulling back. We had a little bounce moving in, but stuff's starting to pull back. But there might be a little minor rotation back into the mega caps. Nvidia got hit pretty hard yesterday. So did Tesla. Google's still down today, roughly offset in comm services by Meta. Right now, consumer cyclical technology. Let me just refresh this since we've had some stuff. Yeah, consumer cyclical and technology still leading, comm services still lagging slightly. Fed watch, still rate hike in July, and then the pause, and then one cut start next year. Nothing's changed with that. We've dropped back into the upper end of greed mode. Hey, Jacob. In terms of gamma, and right now positive gamma, we're slightly in positive gamma. We're trading 43.76. Gamma flip is 43.64, and that was the key levels from yesterday. Also that 43.62 area, 43.65. So that's the gamma flip area still going into today. The major gamma wall is still 4,400. So on any rally, watch that for pretty substantial resistance. So that's where we sit with that. Walgreens was the only thing I was looking at this morning, which was miss on EPS, beat on revenue, but pretty decent gap down for Walgreens, testing the most recent major swing lows. After the close, really nothing today. Before the open tomorrow, we got General Mills is really the only thing I'll be looking at. And then remember, after the close tomorrow, we got Micron. We still have the little flag intact. We pushed a little lower yesterday, did not rally above any of the key levels, but still with some waning momentum and key divergences. This little push down this morning has set up. This is technically not a valid double, but I just want to see where the levels would take us, and it would roughly take us here to, again, you have a little 1 hour clear path move. So I'd look to try to get in a little early on any move because of the clear path and a strong rotation up. I just want to see, we have the second and third targets roughly at the high zone, and the second target's at 4,400. So if we do break higher, that is what I'm looking for. And I'd use these other levels as stop reductions. 43.96 and 4,400 would be the major, and then 44.04, but that is trading into some severe overhead resistance. That would take it above the flagging downward channel, but only takes it back to, remember that 4,400 is really key. And you see here the breakdown level that's been tested. So this was support back last Thursday, became resistance on Friday, became resistance yesterday. So that's a very key area to watch for. Hey, Royal Palms. That is exactly what I'm watching for. And we had some waning momentum. So I'm looking for at least a bounce retest of that area and then to see what happens at that area. If we roll over again, still the next major support area, if this does not hold here, if the lows from yesterday do not hold, which were 43.68. Remember, we're right around gamma flip is 43.62 is still key. And then right around 43.45 is the gap from the contract rollover and the bottom of the rotation zone, and roughly anywhere in this area. So that's my downside if we do break below, but I'm cautious to the downside with waning momentum, lots of divergences, and daily cycles at the bottom. Remember also we have weekly still rolling over, but because weekly is still rolling over does not mean that every day has to be down, but this bounce might not be long lived. I'm still watching for the secondary reaction. That doesn't mean it has to come up and form a double top. It might be a very weak secondary reaction going into quarter end and another potential rollover play. But I will be watching any secondary reaction for any kind of topping setups. NASDAQ, we do now. Yesterday it wasn't really good because we were holding this key support, although once that broke, here's what we saw yesterday. I said once this broke, we bounced, we got some momentum into the open, and then we lit a one candle, and then we broke that key level I outlined yesterday, and then we just traded down and found some pretty major support down there yesterday, and it formed a stronger flagging pattern. What am I watching for today? If we start getting above about 14,940, at least a potential run to 14,990 to 15,000. That's going to be some pretty substantial resistance. And then above there would be about 15,080 to 15,100 are the upsides. And again, we have some waning momentum with lower lows and divergences set up. Daily is still at the bottom of the cycles, and we're in the rotation zone. So the same thing also holds true. NASDAQ weekly still headed down. So this could be a weak bounce, but I'm still watching for the bounce play and then a next rollover play setup. Dow, anything above 34,100. Watching for that bounce play to about 34,200 to 250. Major support, still nothing's changed. Yesterday, 33.8. 33.8. We got a slight little bounce in the Russell retested with today's price action. Does this fit into a double? Not yet. It would need a slight push down below 1833.50 to form a potential double. So if we do get a little push down into the open, I will keep an eye on that, but then it would need a close above 1859 roughly to run back up into this move. Let's see where this is. The support from yesterday is the major support against the 50 EMA, so about 1825. VIX still 15. 15 is my trigger point for getting more substantially bearish. Nothing's changed with that. The DAX still trying to put in some waning momentum. You see some divergences setting up here, but it has to get back above about 16,050 to confirm a bottom. Notes still not doing anything. The 10-2s still trying to hold. Really watching for this to start to rotate back up with some exhaustion plays. The dollar is breaking down. I'm going to watch where this closes, because if it closes down at these levels below this same level I said yesterday, 102.06, I'll be watching for the triple bottom. The double is still not invalidated. The invalidation point for the double bottom is a close below 101.93 or an intraday trade below 101.77. So that is still valid, but definitely weaker unless we do get a little strength against this and close and bounce back up into the close. Crude retested. This is it still has some buying pressure down here. You can see still has some buying pressure. Let's just see if this is a potential valid. Yeah. That could be on a little mini bullish move, but that's again back to potentially 72.50 area. So not much. That's an intraday, more scalpy trading pattern. And if we rotate back down and test this area again, it would be invalidated. But that's the only, and that's just keeps it in consolidation. That's not a breakout for consolidation pattern. That just keeps it within this overall consolidation area. Gold still holding below the key resistance area 1943, 1942.50. Needs to get through that, but then the target on that's 1956 area. Not a major bottoming thing yet. Good morning, Anissa. All right. Yen could be putting in this little topping pattern. That's what I'm keeping an eye on with the yen. That's a minor topping pattern right there. Taking it back into the daily rotation zone. That's about it. And if it does pop up, still the target's not, the final target's not changed, 144.35. Euro, again, it has closed above the 62.5 back on the middle of June, so still watching for a completion to 110.40 roughly. Pound, not triggered the double yet. Confirmed, still not triggered, and on a strong rotation back up, that would be off the table. So no bearish pattern triggered in the pound yet. Bitcoin, still consolidating after the strong push higher, but nothing else going on there. Tesla, we had the head and shoulders. Head and shoulders little breakdown, not to the first target, 233. I'm watching for actually a slight bounce to retest some of those breakdown areas today, but then 233, 226, 218. We'll get to spiders and Qs in a second. NVIDIA pulling back towards the bottom of the rotation zone. Going to be watched for a bounce and then a potential roll over here. By the way, AMD is still, we're getting a bounce this morning, but still stalled out at the first target area even yesterday, and still has a more push lower even after the bounce. This is nothing to invalidate the pattern, even if it returns to 116.50. The only thing that would invalidate that AMD pattern right now would be a close above 123.38, which is a long way off. Spiders and the Qs. Spiders, little gap pre-market today. Gap up. So the key resistance is still about 434 and then 436.50. Support, if it does push lower, I'm keeping an eye at 430 to 430.50 for a major support to come in. Again, cycles at the bottom. But this bounce, again, doesn't have to be massively strong just yet. Which probably means it could bounce more than I expect it to. The Qs gap up this morning. Any rollover play would be targeting yesterday's close, 357.68. Resistance, 360.50 area. And then we're looking at 365 is very key resistance. So that's to the upside. If we do roll over, fill the gap, the major support coming in at still at 356. All right. So that's where all that sits right now. Let's just take a look at some other things. So Google, by the way, Google, I will be watching right around this area, a little gap down, but it's coming into the area of the 50 EMA. and this prior little mini support base. So I will be watching to see if that forms support. And then a bounce play, and then another rollover play in Google. Some of these mega caps, what's been leading, are starting to put in more of a topping pattern. See here with Apple, not able to really break above the next key harmonic in any area, in any way. By the way, this double is no longer valid. I just didn't pull it off. So keeping an eye, we got waning momentum. So we'll be watching again for some bounces, but then a bigger rollover play in some of these things that have been leading higher. So we're starting to set up where we could be getting to a larger pullback overall with some of these, but there is not a major triggering pattern just yet. All right, so keep an eye on that. You can see lots of breakdowns. This, again, these secondary bounces, if they're very weak, it's not a good sign for the market in the short term, because we are getting a look at some of these patterns. They're just starting to break down. Like this is the first Microsoft first close since back in April 25th that was below the daily rotation zone. So that's pretty substantial. And remember, these are way overextended from the weeklies. So we could see some bigger pullbacks into some of these key weekly rotation zones overall. And I'm not talking today, I'm just giving stuff I'm watching in the coming week, especially with quarter end, to start triggering. Thank you, Heinrich. I wish you the best too. So thank you for tuning in. Just keep an eye on some, even if you don't trade some of these stocks, if you glance at the charts, because like Nvidia, Microsoft, Apple, Google, Meta. Look, I mean, even Meta, look how overextended it is from the weekly rotation zone. So still, the daily rotation zone is 271. So we start getting Meta closes below 271 right now. We could start triggering the bigger pullback. So that's what I'm watching for. Some of these things that have been leading to the upside for many, many weeks to start at least returning to the weekly rotation zone. With that, I will wrap it up for now. You are welcome, Anissa. Everybody have a great week, and don't get faked out with stuff being end of quarter, end of month, end of quarter. And that 4,400 in the S&P is very, very key to sustain any bounce. It's got to get through that level. Talk to everyone later. Bye for now.